Friday fun. We can make it a little bit of a feel-good factor too. Now, we spoke about shapeshifting before, and we're always, in some ways, trying to shift our shape, and sometimes it does it without our even realising it, hence our worry about whether or not we should be shifting it ourselves. Now, this can be done in many ways. This can be done lying down, it can be done when you're walking. Just be careful, because when you're focusing on being away from yourself and being something else, it's easier to fall down and hurt yourself. So please, be aware, use your common sense. And maybe if you're new to this, just start off by being in one place, sitting down or lying down, quietly. So, to start off, when you're trance dancing, if you want to go into trance and you don't have a drumming thing nearby, you can use a rattle. I have a lovely rattle. It's a Madagascan flame tree pod, and it has a wonderful noise. And that's the kind of beat that you want to be able to get yourself in to a little bit of a trance. And it's quite easy to actually start yourself moving around. This is where your imagination starts to come into play, when you're doing a little bit of modelling. And trance dancing, you are modelling a way of being, a mindset, an actual spiritual enhancement of yourself. You're feeding your soul, really. You're feeding that part of your mind, your oversoul, your inner undersoul person. You're feeding by connecting them both, the oversoul and the undersoul. How we move into that space is the fun part, because we can do it any way we like. And as I mentioned before, it's like athletes being in the zone. I can count on the fingers of one hand how many times I was in the zone when I was playing judo. But there was one time particularly when everything just... Again, it was like being outside of time. Things were just... There was motion, there was action, but I wasn't actively thinking about it. I was just doing. I was being. And I was winning until my attention was caught off guard and it just went, it disappeared. I get the feeling that I could have gone on for hours in that space had I not been interrupted. I'm not entirely sure that I can say that I would be walking the next day, or that breathing would not have been extremely painful, because every muscle in my body would most likely have been complaining about what had happened the day before. But still, there's that catharsis and absolute joy of knowing that it happened, that you could do that. Even if you can't remember quite how you got there, you did it. So if you did it, you could back engineer into how it happened. Instead of going to all that trouble though, you could just try again with a little bit of help from a steady, monotonous beat, or a real good drumming, get into it, moving, didgeridoo kind of thing. Whatever burns your candle, get in there and have a dance around. And when you're dancing, think about, if you already have a power animal, think about one of them. Think about what it would be like to be one of them. When we say to children, be a tree, right away, we as adults have all this periphery of stuff around. Oh well, what kind of tree? Where would I be? Would it be windy? Would my branches be moving? Will I look like an idiot? Why would I want to do that? Okay. this is where your sense of self is starting to get a little bit skewed. Your ego is taking over. You could be a tree if you want to. You could be a frog. You could be a duck. You could be going around the house going quack, 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 quack if you want to. It's your place. It's your time. You can do what you want. And if it makes you happy and it makes you feel a little bit giggly about it because you've done something that you probably wouldn't have done normally, then all the better. Because let's face it, humans like to have fun. And this is a bit of fun. As long as it's not hurting anybody, it can be done fun. I'm not asking you to mimic someone or something that happened in the past. I'm not asking you to ridicule anything. I'm not even asking you to ridicule yourself, but what I'm asking you to do is find the fun in things that goes beyond or is underneath the dignity aspect, let's call it. That I'm an adult, I don't do that kind of thing. That's for children and other people who are quite mad. At the moment we're all going quietly mad in some way or another. So we might as well embrace it for a little while and just let off some steam. And we can do it in a mannered fashion by doing a bit of shapeshifting, by doing a bit of modelling. Modelling in NLP terms is looking at, say you want to be as successful as the guy down the road who you admire and you think is wonderful, but you just don't know how he does what he does. You know he's good at it, or she's good at it, or they're good at it, but you just don't know how they do that. So in NLP what we do is we ask what it would be like to be that person. So we actually take on the mantle. In Erickson hypnosis it goes a step further and it's called deep trance identification. So you go into a trance and you try this person's attributes on. You're not interfering with their soul, with their essence, with their ka. You're not interfering with their mind. You're not doing anything like that. You're just using your amazing abilities, your unlimited resources, to take yourself into a space where you can see what it is that makes that person tick, and you can try it on for a while and see if it's going to work, if there's anything in there that can help you to do something a little bit differently, but still be yourself. And that's the most important thing. We're not trying to be someone else, we're trying to see what someone else does in order to make them successful. And you may not even want to be successful, you just might be a little bit curious as to what it might be like. So you can try that on. Actors do it all the time. Particularly when they're doing something that's totally contrary to their habits, their way of being. They try on the coat of a character. They wear a character. They become stepping into the shoes of that person, that being. They become. For a limited time. So let's start off really small. If you can't get out in the garden, maybe you can look outside and you can see some birds or something. I don't know. You can even remember a walk where you saw an animal and you thought, wow, that's so beautiful. I wonder what it would be like. And it's that catching thought. It doesn't even have to be articulated. Just the, And your mind is already going there, looking at it and imagining what it's like, seeing it in its environment and thinking to yourself, ooh, that's nice. Isn't that quite cute? Isn't it beautiful? In the background everything's going and switching and your superior universal mind is going, oh, here we go. Well, it's, as far as I'm concerned. She's going to be today, and it's almost a bit like Stars Your Eyes. Today I'm going to be a fox. Today I'm going to be a deer. Today I'm going to be an elephant-eared begonia. And I'm saying that because I've got my begonia, my elephant-eared begonia, in the corner there, and it's looking a bit sad at the moment. And I'd kind of like to figure out why it's so sad. I think I know, but it would be nice to understand it from the plant's point of view. Yes, I am completely bonkers, and I don't care, because it helps me to align with the energy of that plant, with anything that I'm looking at becoming or modelling, and it allows me to understand that there's life there, that there's some form of sentience there. And if I can make myself sympathetic and empathetic to that, I'm going to look after it a little bit better. So maybe we can think about that on a bigger scale. Maybe as a group we could get together and actually say, let's imagine what it would be like to be the planet right now, and see how we feel about that. We might find out some things that we weren't actually aware of before. And we didn't have to go anywhere to find out, not physically anyway. So, I'm going to start with my begonia. You can start with any plant or animal that you want to. You want to be thinking about it. Now you can dance it, you can sit there, you can journey it. You can just look at it as if it was next to you at the campfire. The spirit of it, the essence of it, speaking to you, communing with you, and you with it. Because that's the whole point. It's not a one-way system. It's two ways. Communication and connection works in two realms, at least. So you want to pay attention. You want to be in a quiet space. You want to understand that nobody's going to interrupt you. And then you want to just let your mind drift and focus your attention on the object that you are wanting to model, slightly enter into, become. You can use a photograph. You can actually lose yourself in a David Attenborough sensation and just become one of those fish, one of those seals, one of those dolphins, one of those whales. And sometimes you can get it on a loop so you can stay in there. Time yourself though. Maybe even put a little alarm. My friend has this watch, I think it's an Apple Watch, I'm not entirely sure, and she just speaks to it, and she just put the timer on for her, which I think is quite amazing, but also I'm quite uncomfortable with it. So I'd rather use my universal mind and say I want to be doing this for 5 minutes of clock time on this, in this reality, and that'll be fine. So your chosen object, animal, plant, and yes, it could be a chair. It could be a chair. Everything has spirit. Everything has energy. So when you're looking at it, and I want you to look at it with the eyes behind your eyes as well as the ones that you're using to watch this now, and to think about it, and then just find yourself really, really looking at it in great detail, as I'm looking at my plant right now. And I'm starting to feel that I want to bend my shoulders and bow and bow my head. And there's a gentle but sad elegance about what's happening with this plant. And just allow the thoughts to flow. As you're doing this, you could write them down afterwards, or you could record them as you do them, because I understand there's a thing on your phone that you can do that with now. Is there anything that phones can't do? But anyway, I digress. If it's an animal, think about how it breathes, what it looks like when it's looking at you, what it sees every day. If it's a bird, you can imagine what it's like to fly. How do you perceive a bird flying? What do you think the bird perceives when it's looking down? I find seagulls excellent for this. I jumped into one day and it was quite an experience. Number one, I hadn't expected to quite go there quite so easily. I was walking the dog at the time. Thankfully, he was totally on board with everything and enjoyed doing his own thing anyway. But both me and the seagull got a little bit of an interesting, ooh, what's going on here then? And for a little while I could see what the seagull could see. I had a different perspective. It gave me a little bit more information about seagulls. It also gave me a little bit more sympathy for them. Even though they are very noisy at very, very early times in the morning. And very territorial. But we still manage that connection. Even if you just think it's all in your head. It is. But what's in your head is a vast expanse of universe in which we are able to do so many things. So just take a little time out and focus on a little plant. Could even be a teddy bear or a stuffed animal somewhere. But see it as the representation of the animal, of the essence of the animal that it's looking like. And then breathe. Have some fun with it. See what it's like to be a squirrel chasing another squirrel around a tree. See what it's like to be a tree. Push your feet into the ground or the floor, the carpet. Sink your toes straight in there. And then feel the sap rising. Feel the energy. If you put your hands out, feel the chi energy from you going out. A little bit of tingling going on. This feels a little bit more like a pressure. If you bring your hands together at one point, you find that they bounce. There's a kind of energy there that you can feel before you put your hands together. You don't really want to put your hands together because this thing that's in here is a really nice, interesting little ball. Now you can fill that ball with lots of different things. This is another way of becoming an energetic ball. And you can put into that ball love, enjoyment, laughter, energy, more and more energy because you're pulling it from the universe. And it can expand and it can get bigger and it can go up into the stratosphere and pick up all the energy that's there, and then it can come back down and go all the way into the ground and pick up all the energy that's in there, all the way to the other side of the earth and out the bottom. And then come back and it might be a little bit bigger and slightly heavier. Then you can compress that ball with all the energy that's inside it. And you can bring it in. Wow. Ah. And allow that energy to flow right back through your fingertips. And just imagine how a tree can do that. How a plant can do that. With the only source of energy that it's got coming from the earth and the sun. And that's how we get energy too. So enjoy playing with your models and modelling your models. And let me know how it goes. Even if you just wanted to use the chi ball. And you know, we could do that exercise another time if you would like. In a workshop. I'll see you soon. Have a great weekend. Be well, be blessed, be loved. Have fun.